What if Gojo came back? Sukuna was standing, his one hand cut off, looking down at Gojo, whose upper body was separated from his lower, bleeding heavily. Sukuna, then commending Gojo's strength, says, Gojo closes his eyes and transcends to heaven, having a reunion with his friends, talking to Geto, telling him how he felt while fighting Sukuna and some other stuff. Meanwhile, Kashimo fights Sukuna and dies. Yuta goes off to kill Kenjaku. Then others join the battle. Sukuna notices that Gojo's body was missing but ignores it, and battle Higuruma and Yuji, ultimately killing Higuruma. The battle progresses and Yuta, after killing Kenjaku, joins the battle against Sukuna alongside Yuji, and later on Maki also joins them. The battle continues. Yuta uses his domain expansion, making use of all the different curse techniques he has copied, while Yuji keep up with him. But at the end, both Rika and Yuta get damaged heavily, while Sukuna was distracted with them. Maki enters Yuta domain and surprise attacks Sukuna. Rika takes her chance to recover and retreats with Yuta, taking him away so he can heal. Yuji stood up ready to continue, but then surprisingly fell to his knees, spitting blood, revealing that some part of his body was not healed. Choso told him to visualize the flow of his blood and figure out which part was damaged. Maki, on the other hand, started battling Sukuna. After a while, Sukuna stopped his healing and landed a black flash, knocking her away. Kusakabe then entered the battle and got defeated. After a while, Maki and Yuji entered the battle again. Sukuna was missing both his left arms, but his cursed energy output was increasing, as he landed more black flashes, and after his fight with Yuta's backup, his RCT was back by landing his second black flash. Sukuna then landed 2 more black flashes on Yuji and Maki. Then suddenly, Sukuna felt what Mahito felt from Yuji. Sukuna, just from seeing Yuji, knew that he was about to land a black flash. He tried to dodge Yuji, but the sorcerer from earlier assisted Yuji by drawing Sukuna's eyes away from Yuji. And before Sukuna knew, he was hit by a black flash. Yuji then continued to hit Sukuna with another 3 black flashes, not giving Sukuna any chance to regain control of battle again. Sukuna thought, this brat. He has landed 4 black flashes and isn't showing any sign of stopping. Is this damned brat really trying to climb up to my level? Yuji then landed another 4 black flashes, throwing Sukuna crashing inside a building. Sukuna came out, with his evil grin, saying, welcome back, Shrine. Domain expansion. Malevolent Shrine. Sukuna domain. Opens yet again. Everything in vicinity. Clearing out all the rubble. Turning everything into dust. The whole area was now completely plain, perfectly leveled. Yuji and others expanded their simple domain to reduce the damage they take from Sukuna's sure hit domain slashes. Yuji was enduring all the slashes, but suddenly his leg got cut off. Yuji was about to fall down, but regained his balance, knowing that if he falls, his simple domain will be undone, and that will be the end for him. When Sukuna domain vanished, everyone was relieved that it was finally over. But Sukuna, on the other hand, had an evil smirk. Sukuna opened the black box and summoned his furnace curse technique. Sukuna brought his arms forward, making an arrow with his flames. The ground around him started to melt. Everyone screamed to dodge the attack. Yuji regenerated his leg and crossed both his hands to block the attack, knowing that dodging it will be near to impossible. Sukuna fired the arrow. Yuji released his blood and made a barrier around himself using it. Everything started to burn. A large pillar of fire appeared, illuminating the area. Choso, using his blood manipulation, made a barrier around everyone. When the attack was done, Yuji's skin was mostly burned. Choso came forward along with Mei to fight Sukuna, and Yuji started to heal himself. Mei launched her crows at high speed, making them use Binding Vow and attack Sukuna, giving up their life to severely damage Sukuna. But as they came towards Sukuna, he just slashed them all. And after a while, both Choso and Mei were badly beat up, as Sukuna was about to kill them. Maki, who recovered after resting for a while, and Yuji, who healed himself, came back on the battlefield. Sukuna smirked and both his arms grew back, saying, "It doesn't matter if my control over this body is weakening. You guys will never be able to defeat me." Everyone was devastated seeing Sukuna recover himself. Sukuna's second mouth also opened again. Sukuna said, "World-cutting slash," and made a hand sign. Sukuna was about to point out the direction, but two voices screamed stop, and a flow of cursed energy was released, stopping Sukuna from completing the requirements. Yuji and Maki looked back and saw Yuta, who was now healed, and Inumaki. Both of them happily called out their name. Yuta said, "He has already healed. This isn't something we expected at all. We are back to square one." Yuji said, "Still, we got no other option but to battle him. We are dead either way." Yuta said, "I never said we have to give up." Maki said, "Well then, let's just get this over with. The longer we wait, the more the situation will be in his favor." Choso got up and spoke. "This is going to be our last stand. We need to give it our all. Otherwise, we have no chance of winning." Sukuna rested his hand on the back of his neck and spoke. "Looks like you guys are done with your planning, and I would like to tell you something." Then Sukuna let out an evil grin, saying, "It would have been better if you guys hid my finger, but to feed it a cursed spirit and bring it to battle, right in front of me. Did you guys think I wouldn't notice?" Everyone was shocked. They didn't think Sukuna would realize that Rika had eaten his last finger to copy his technique. Sukuna then said, "Not that I would need it to win here anyway, but it would be good to be complete again." A barrage of slashes came and slashed Rika into many pieces. Sukuna's finger came out of her body. Yuta stared to look behind him towards Rika. He knew that Rika would regenerate as long as he was alive. But he needs to get that finger. If Sukuna gets it, their already low chances of winning will turn to an absolute zero. Yuta was about to grab Sukuna's finger, but a realization hit him. "Shit. I let my guard down." Yuta was about to turn back and face Sukuna, but Sukuna launched many slashes, while saying, "Foolish kids." Yuji came in front of Yuta, his hands coated with hardened blood. The slashes hit Yuji and his blood armor was destroyed. Yuji said, "Don't worry, Yuta. You take that finger and get out of here. We can't let him have it." Rika also regenerated, apologizing to Yuta. Yuta politely said, "Don't worry. It wasn't your fault." And Yuji, "If you think me taking this finger away will help up, then you can't be any more wrong. If he defeats you guys while I'm one, I won't be able to do anything alone, and our only chance will be gone. As I said earlier, it's now or never." Sukuna rushed at them with full speed. Everyone took defensive form. Sukuna punched Yuta, but Yuta blocked it. The impact was so strong that he was thrown back. As the attack hit Yuta, Yuji launched a punch and Maki swung her sword at Sukuna. Sukuna blocked their attacks with both his left hands. Choso launched his piercing blood at Sukuna. Sukuna, with his lower right arms, pointed towards Choso and launched many slashes, slashing his attack before it could reach him. Rika, on the other hand, launched a punch from above. Sukuna looked at her and launched many slashed, but Rika only received minor cuts from it, and punched Sukuna. This all happened at the same moment when Sukuna landed his punch on Yuta. A dust cloud rise up from the ground. Rika started violently punching Sukuna, who was on the ground. Choso charged up another of his attacks. Maki and Yuji were ready to strike as soon as Rika stopped. Sukuna on the ground had all his 4 arms above him, blocking Rika attacks. Sukuna himself looked unimpressed. Sukuna said, "Enough of this disrespectful cursed spirit." Rika suddenly stopped, and everyone wondered why Rika stopped hitting him. And on top of that, she was also not moving from there. Then suddenly, Rika was turned into just a pile of blood. Slashes from Sukuna destroyed her completely. Maki and Yuji were shocked. But without wasting even a second, they attacked Sukuna, who stood up from the ground. While Maki and Yuji were between battle, they were wondering what happened. And how can such a strong cursed spirit be beaten this easily? Yuta screamed, "Don't worry about her. She is not dead. She will come back later. For now, my time to keep her in this world was almost over anyway." Yuji heard this and thought, "Thank God she's alive. Now take this, you piece of shit," and launched a punch at Sukuna. Sukuna caught Maki's sword with one hand and Yuji punch with another. Yuji released blood spikes from his fists, damaging Sukuna's hand and freeing himself. Yuji took a step back and opened his palm and pointed it towards Sukuna. 2 slashes came and cut Sukuna's eyes. Sukuna tried grabbing Maki's hand, but saw that no one was holding the sword. Maki kicked Sukuna in the face and twisted his hand, making him let go of Maki's sword. Sukuna heard where Maki landed and launched many slashes while taking a jump back. Maki tried to jump out of the way, but half of her foot was cut decapitated from her. Maki, ignoring the pain, jumped at Sukuna along with Yuji. Sukuna recovered his eyes and saw both Maki and Yuji were about to attack him and brought 2 of his hands forward to block the attacks. Maki slashed Sukuna's fingers, while Yuji changed the trajectory of his attack and using his leg kicked Sukuna in the guts. Yuji's leg's hand spike made from his blood on it. Sukuna let out a smirk, saying, "No bad." Maki was suddenly slashed from her chest to guts and was thrown back, while the leg Yuji attacked Sukuna with was severed from his body. Sukuna started to recover himself and thought, "The attack that brat landed on me to weaken my control on this body is a pain in the ass. If not for that, their speed would have been nothing to me. And recovering attacks like this would have been like breathing." Sukuna then suddenly sensed large amount of cursed energy concentrated in one place and saw Choso with one of his strongest attacks. Sukuna got ready to dodge it, but Yuta came behind Sukuna with his katana and tried severing Sukuna's head, but 2 slashes came at Yuta. Yuta ducked down and thought, "I knew he wouldn't be easy to catch off guard like Kenjaku." Yuta then sliced off Sukuna one leg and jumped back, thinking, now that he has recovered from the battle against Gojo sensei, it's much harder to slice through him. Choso launched his attack and severed Sukuna's arm from his shoulder. Sukuna jumped with the leg he had before he received any more damage and focused his healing on his leg. Sukuna launched hundreds of his slashes at Choso's attack, but it was no use. The only thing it did was to delay it from reaching Sukuna. But that much time was enough from Sukuna to heal his leg. Sukuna ran in circle around Choso at full speed, enjoying himself. Within seconds, all the damage that Sukuna had received till now was recovered. Choso was sweating, knowing that if Sukuna decided to attack Choso in this situation, it would be Choso end. And to his horror, Sukuna launched slashes at Choso from all directions. Choso thought, "Well, I'm done for." Yuji came above Choso and landed his hand on Choso's head, making him duck down. Black lightning was coming out from all over Yuji. Yuji screamed, I will not let you kill any more of my comrades. A lot of blood shout out from Yuji's arm along with slashes of Sukuna technique that Yuji inherited, neutralizing almost all of Sukuna attacks. The few that remained hit Yuji. Yuji healed his wounds. Sukuna, seeing this, said, "Well, that was good bread. Let's see how you dodge this." Yuji then noticed Sukuna already completed the incantation for world-cutting slash and pointed at Yuji. A large slash came rushing, destroying the ground in its path, moving towards Choso and Yuji. Yuji pushed Choso out of the way while jumping out himself. But half of his leg and whole arm from the shoulder was cut off. Sukuna appeared in front of Yuji and was about to punch him. But Inumaki used his technique to stop Sukuna and yelled, "Die." Sukuna started to bleed from all over his body, saying, "That brat. High curse technique is really powerful. But at least he's out of the picture now." Inumaki spat out blood and fell to his knees. Maki picked up Inumaki and fled from there, taking him with her, leaving him far away. To make it easier for Yui to teleport Inumaki near Shoko. Maki then returned back to the battle. Yuji and Yuta were fighting Sukuna in close combat while Choso was supporting them from long range. Yui teleported to Inumaki and took him to Shoko. We saw that Shoko was healing Gojo with one hand and Kusakabe with other. Shoko looked at Inumaki and said, "All right, Kusakabe is done. Bring Inumaki here," and starts healing him. Shoko was sweating a lot, tired from healing everyone, saying, "Wake up, Gojo. We need you." Gojo's body was almost healed. Only his legs below his knees were left. Gojo was in a black domain, floating around. He could sense everyone's energy. Gojo said, "My students really have grown a lot. I didn't expect Yuji would be able to fight Sukuna one-on-one. Someday, yes. But this soon, he has exceeded my expectation. Well, enough sleeping." Gojo opened his eyes and with a smile looked at Shoko, saying, "Good morning, Shoko." Shoko let out tears of joy seeing Gojo wake up. Everyone there was happy. Kusakabe said, "Now that Gojo is here, we can win." Gojo said, "Thanks for healing me this much. You can focus on healing Inumaki and then rest." Gojo regenerated his legs back and stood up, putting his hand on Shoko's shoulder. Inumaki woke up, almost healed completely. Gojo said, "You did well, Shoko." Shoko let out a small smile and fell unconscious, sleeping. Gojo looked at Kusakabe and the others. "Look after her for me." Sukuna felt Gojo energy. A sweat came down on his face, saying with hesitation and surprise, "Is he for real?" Maki, Yuta, and Yuji were confused at what Sukuna meant. Choso screamed at them to focus. But Sukuna suddenly, with intense speed, went in front of Yuta and punched him. Yuta was thrown back. Sukuna appeared behind and caught him. Sukuna took the last finger Yuta was keeping and threw him to the side. Gojo came from high up in the sky, screaming, "Sukuna, I am back." Sukuna, with an excited smirk, said, "That bastard. Just lay low already." Gojo landed. "Yo, it's been a while," Sukuna replied. "It sure has been. Your little pets have been annoying me for the time you were gone from here," Gojo said. "Those are my students, and they seem to have grown quite a lot," Sukuna said. "Well, I too have to say, they sure have grown. Especially that brat," Gojo said. "Yuji has exceeded my expectation. But I too have learned something new." A white aura started to come from Gojo's body. Sukuna, with excitement, smirked. "Don't tell me you have reached that level," Gojo said. "Yes, I did. I knew you were hiding your true power. And while I was in the afterlife, I felt a new type of energy. Something that I was familiar with, yet I never felt anything like that. But then something clicked inside me. My purple. It was incomplete. Red and blue were supposed to fuse and form something neutral. But purple was not complete. It was not balanced. But now, Yuta screamed at everyone to get away. Yuji, Maki, Yuta, and Choso all jumped away. Sukuna said, "This maniac." Gojo released a white sphere, saying, "Destroyer White." Sukuna, seeing this, instantly summoned his furnace and launched it against Gojo. He knew that his furnace would lose. But what he wanted was to weaken the attack so he himself receives less damage. The attack is Sukuna. And when the dust flew away with air, Sukuna was seen to be missing both of his left arms and a little of his chest. Sukuna, white spitting blood, said, "You truly are one of us, honored one." Sukuna then took out his last finger from his pocket. Gojo, seeing this, was alerted and tried rushing and taking the finger from Sukuna, but wasn't fast enough to stop Sukuna from eating it. As Sukuna ate his last finger, everyone felt as if a demon of a cursed spirit came into existence. Sukuna regenerated completely, and the gap Yuji made between Sukuna and Megumi body was undone. Sukuna laugh started to echo everywhere. A barrage of slashes came towards Gojo from all direction. Gojo thought Sukuna's slashes wouldn't get past his infinity. He was correct. But the slashes tore through Gojo's upper layer of infinity and stopped right before touching him, where the infinity effect was strongest. Gojo realized, after Sukuna regained his full power, he was twice as strong as before. His cursed energy output was unlike anyone he has ever seen. Yuji, Yuta, and Making healed themselves and appeared beside Gojo. Yuji said, "Let's do this together, sensei. It was our fault that he regained his full strength. The least we can do is support you in this battle." Gojo smirked and said, "Then you guys better use your body to its fullest and keep up with me, otherwise it will become harder for me. Also, don't expect me to protect you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing how much you guys have improved." Gojo took his fighting stance, saying, "Sukuna, let's continue where we left off." Gojo, both hands were covered in white cursed energy. Sukuna looked at Gojo with excitement, taking his fighting stance, saying, "Gladly. Let's see what new heights you have achieved after your awakening." Sukuna brought all his four arms together and a spear started to take form. The interesting thing is a white cursed energy similar to Gojo's was making the sphere. Sukuna said, "I wonder, which is more powerful? Your newly awakened Destroyer White, or my spear of extinction that I refined for hundreds of years?" As Sukuna's spear took its form, the pressure around that area increased tremendously. Gojo said, "Is this what everyone in Heian era was like? I like this a lot. I wish I was there to battle people like you, Sukuna." Sukuna said, "Yes, everyone in Heian era was strong. But don't be mistaken. Those guys were nowhere near my level. Let me show you it really means to have the title of a king." Sukuna swung his spear and a large slash was released from it. The slash rushed at Gojo with insane speed while it destroyed the ground in its way. Yuji, confused, asked, "Is that another world-cutting slash?" But he didn't do any incantation or hand sign. Gojo, replying to Yuji, explained, "It's not a world-cutting slash, but it's just as powerful. If Sukuna attacks now are as powerful as his world-cutting slash in his 19-finger form, then we have almost no chance of winning. That is, if it was the old me. But now." Gojo released a purple hollow with his index finger and launched it at Sukuna slash. Both the attacks were destroyed. Gojo looked at his hands and said, "Let's try this now." Gojo covered his body with neutral cursed energy and jumped at Sukuna. His speed was incredible. Yuji, Yuta, and Maki tried to keep up but were left in the dust. Sukuna smirked and said, "Now that's more like it," and rushed at Gojo. Both of them were so fast. It seemed like there were multiple of them scattered all around the battlefield. Their laughs were echoing everywhere. Yuta told Maki and Yuji that if they tried to help, they will only get in the way. The gap between Gojo and them is even bigger now. And even Sukuna, who we thought we could win against, was only playing with us. We got no chance here. It would be better if we back out, Maki said. Let's go help Hikari. He has been fighting for too long, Yuji said. I will stay here, Yuta said. All right. It would be better that way. Don't let anyone interfere with their battle. If Sukuna summons any Shikigami, you should take care of it, so Gojo-sensei can focus on defeating Sukuna. Sukuna released many slashes from his spear, but all were blocked by Gojo Infinity. Sukuna, seeing this, sighed, saying, "That infinity of his is annoying, and I can't even send out world-cutting slash to bypass his curse technique." Sukuna then smirked, thinking, "Let's use this then." Open, Gojo said. So, you are going to using some new technique. Let's see what it's this time. In both of Sukuna left hand's fire appeared, while in both of his right hand ice. Sukuna said, "Let me show you what your technique can do when someone at our level uses it." The ground under Sukuna was covered in ice. Ice spikes started to appear on ground and moved towards Gojo with immense speed. Gojo punched towards the coming ice spikes and cursed energy from his hand shot out, destroying the ice spikes. Gojo said, "This is amazing. I feel like I can do anything." Suddenly a hand made of ice came out of the ground grabbing Gojo and going upward. Gojo smirked and said, "Do you really think something like this can stop me?" And Gojo spread his arms wide, destroying the ice hand completely. Gojo then saw a fired arrow coming at him. Gojo coated his hand with a lot of neutral energy and caught the arrow and said, "Here, take this back," and launched it towards Sukuna. Sukuna raised his spear and the spear absorbed all of it. Sukuna said, "Keep it coming." The spear turned slightly red. Gojo rushed at Sukuna, and they started clashing fists. Sukuna swung his spear at Gojo. Gojo directed his hand towards the spear and launched red at it, pushing it away. Gojo punched Sukuna in the guts, but Sukuna caught his hand and tried to slam him on the ground. Gojo released a blue, destroying both his and Sukuna hand, and landed on the ground. Gojo turned towards Sukuna. Blue light from his eyes formed a line. Gojo jumped at Sukuna while his arm regenerated. Sukuna brought his arm forward. Gojo's arm regenerated and he punched Sukuna, but Sukuna blocked it. Gojo turned and launched a kick from above towards Sukuna's head. Sukuna blocked it with his spear. Sukuna said, "Come here, you punk," and grabbed Gojo's leg and went to slam him on the ground. Gojo spun and broke his leg, landing a kick on Sukuna's face. Sukuna ignored it all and slammed Gojo on the ground. Gojo bounced back up from the rebound, with a smirk on his face. Sukuna regenerated his arm and directed it towards Gojo, launching many slashes, making many cuts on Gojo's leg and sending his flying. As Gojo got hit by slashes, he brought his hand behind his back and smoothly launched a mini purple hollow at Sukuna, and was carried away by the impact he got from Sukuna's slashes. Sukuna blocked the attack with his spear. Gojo turned around, grabbing the ground with his hand, slowing himself down, while yelling at Sukuna with excitement, "Let's go, Sukuna!" Black lightning was coming out of Gojo's body. Sukuna smirked and yelled back, Let's curse each other till our death." A black spark came from Sukuna's hand, and Sukuna swung his spear back like Purple Hollow wasn't there. The spear absorbed it completely. White energy started to come out of Sukuna's body as well. Sukuna launched his spear at Gojo as he finished speaking. The fire arrow and purple that the spear absorbed came out of it, moving towards Gojo. Gojo pulled his arm back and made a destroyer white. Launched it at the spear. Extinction spear clashed with destroyer white and both were nullified by each other. Fire arrow and hollow purple came towards Gojo. Gojo rushed at them and slipped past through, slashing them slightly and nullifying them with the right amount of cursed energy. Gojo and Sukuna both came in front of each other, smirking with excitement of battle. Gojo and Sukuna both punched each other in the face. Their face tilted backward from the punch, but their smile didn't fade. Gojo and Sukuna started punching each other at full force. They didn't care if they got hit. They were only focused on hitting the opponent. Black lightning was coming out of them as they struck each other. Both of them punched the other in the guts with all they had and were pushed back from the force. Both of them wiped the blood that was on their face and stem started to come out of their whole body. Both of them used RCT to recover completely.